Welcome back to Sunday Square Off. I'm very pleased to have with us the anchor of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd.
Hey, Brahm.
Welcome to Arizona.
It's good to be here. Obviously didn't come here for the weather. No offense. It was super hot.
I know you didn't come here for the heat.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Arizona. And one of the themes you've been bringing up is we have 4 or 5 election deniers on our statewide ticket. Where does that put us nationally? How different are we?
It's a lot different than, people bring up Michigan and Pennsylvania, and they certainly have a couple of statewide nominees that come from sort of the election denial wing, the Trump wing of the party. But he had more success here in his primary endorsements in Arizona than in any other battleground state. There are a few other very red states where he had some success, think your Wyomings of the world. But in a battleground state, there is no ticket that he has essentially orchestrated more effectively in his image than the Arizona ticket.
So you've been on the ground 24 hours, but you've been following Arizona for years. What's your sense of why? Why us?
Look, I look at it as there's always been a more robust, we could say it was the John Birchers, and then you can call them different names over time, but there's always been a more robust, call it a fringe element of the GOP that would get swept under the rug every now and then, but I think when I first started covering politics, Arizona was recovering from the Evan Mecham years, and I've heard his name mentioned to me a few times in relation to who could be the next governor. And the point is that it's sort of like your soil is really good soil to grow, and it seems as if the soil here in Arizona, for some reason, allows more of the fringe on the right to grow, and that I feel like we're seeing. You go all the way back to the Birchers, and you're seeing it today.
Kari Lake, the Republican candidate for governor, has become kind of a national sensation in Republican circles. What is your sense of how high she could go if she wins the governorship?
Look, I think that she is, whatever you think of her personally, she's obviously very charismatic, very comfortable. We all know this. If you're comfortable in our business, comfortable putting yourself out there, and essentially comfortable taking arrows and sort of, standing that way, you can go a long way in this version of the GOP. I think Kari Lake is somebody, if she's governor, I don't know her. We don't know her well. It looks like to a lot of people, and all the reporting seems to support, that suddenly she decided, I'm going to use Trump to fast track my way into politics. She's not the first. Ron DeSantis chose to do this in the state of Florida. We've seen others. I'm guessing her ambition isn't just governor of Arizona. And I do think if she wins, she immediately becomes a national focal point.
I want to go back to a poll you did, I think, 2-3 weeks ago, national poll rating issues, and there was a lot of concern about democracy and the state of our democracy. And that became kind of a Rorschach test, right? You could read that whichever way you wanted. How did you read those numbers?
Well, first of all, it's about a 2-to-1. Democrats to Republicans that said this. So, and we're going to go even deeper in our next poll and get actual voters to tell us, all right, when you pick the democracy is your number one issue, why? Tell us your why. But you can see based on who what they did in some other questions, it's about 2-to-1 D to R that say this. But that's the point here. There is the true Trump believers have as much concern about the future of the democracy as the other folks that are picking this. So the expression alternative facts, it is an alternative worldview. It isn't based in the facts that we know, but it's a worldview that is believed by a chunk of voters.
Is that a motivating issue for voters beyond the economy, inflation, issues like that?
No, not what we have seen. It is a motivating issue for the left. So what we've noticed is if you look at sort of 3 basic issues of what motivates, the left is fired up, and I think abortion and democracy are merging a little bit. How we got the abortion decision, many voters view as part of our small d democratic crisis. You see that as the top motivator for left of center voters. Among right of center voters, it's the border. Okay, if you want to know what the number one issue that motivates voting among the base of the GOP, it is still the border, okay, more than anything else. It's what's fascinating to me, it's the independent voters are the ones that pick cost of living. And to me, I sit here and look, tell me the price of gas on October 15th, and I'll tell you which party's going to win. Because I do think those independent voters, particularly in this state, are that crucial.
That's interesting because I want to end with abortion. Pollsters on the right and the left all agree it is the top issue for voters,
Yeah.
many groups of voters, especially women, college-educated women, and here in Arizona at least, independents.
It is.
So given what they're saying and the history of abortion as an issue, abortion rights, will that be a motivator, the motivator for a lot of voters?
I will tell you this. My understanding of the West, politically and historically, my understanding of the libertarian streak that still exists among Arizona independents, I think abortion ends up the trump card, no pun intended, for the Democrats in here, that is perhaps the difference between winning and losing at the end of the day for these Democratic candidates. I think it is that powerful an issue with enough independent voters. And because I go back, this is the Western conservatives that I grew up and you and I grew up with were always a bit more libertarian. Whether it's Alan Simpson in Wyoming, John McCain here, those people still exist. And that's the voter that I think, if the Democrats find them, that might save them in the state.